10-year-old steps onto a national stage, no one expects history to be made until Jackie Evancho opened her mouth. In what many are calling a once-in-a-generation moment, a young girl from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, turned an ordinary audition into a career-defining breakthrough. Jackie Evancho, just 10 years old at the time, auditioned for America's Got Talent in 2010 with a rendition of O Mio Babino Caro. But what followed was far from ordinary. Her voice, controlled, operatic, and emotionally resonant, stunned both the judges and the millions watching at home. Within moments, the video clip would be shared worldwide, gaining traction not just as a viral sensation, but as a cultural event. The buzz around Evancho was instantaneous. Critics who had never heard of her were now analyzing her vocal technique, marveling at her stage presence. More than just a talented child, she represented the rare moment when innocence meets undeniable skill. Media outlets rushed to cover the story. 10-year-old channels opera star, voice of an angel, and little girl, big talent, were among the headlines dominating airwaves and timelines. As reporters followed the story, many began to ask, how could someone so young possess such emotional depth in her delivery? Music experts debated whether her vibrato, tone, and projection were the result of training, raw talent, or something more mysterious. Meanwhile, social media exploded with praise, with fans and celebrities alike sharing their astonishment. But beneath all the applause and sudden fame, there was another story beginning, one far more complex than a viral clip. Because while Jackie's voice silenced the crowd, her journey was just beginning, and it would not always be harmonious. She didn't just sing, she shattered records, becoming one of the youngest top-charting artists in American history. Just months after her unforgettable debut on America's Got Talent, Jackie Evancho released her first major-label extended play, Oh Holy Night. The result? A Billboard breakthrough. The EP debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200 and quickly soared to platinum status, making her the youngest solo artist in US history to achieve such a feat. At an age where most children were attending elementary school concerts, Jackie was performing at prestigious venues and recording in top-tier studios. Major networks like CNN, ABC, and NBC scrambled to book her. Oprah invited her to perform. Her holiday special raked in millions of views. Jackie was no longer just a contestant. She had become a full-fledged recording artist. This was more than a flash in the pan. This was an industry event. Her classical crossover appeal drew in demographics ranging from opera aficionados to suburban families. Music retailers reported spikes in sales. Meanwhile, YouTube views were climbing by the hour. It's important to note that Jackie's rise wasn't just about her vocal range. It was about how she fit into a growing demand for genuine or inspiring content. Her performances were packaged with poise, elegance, and maturity, all wrapped in the form of a child prodigy. This intersection of talent and timing catapulted her from reality TV to mainstream recognition, a leap many contestants never make. But even amid the spotlight, a looming question lingered among both fans and critics. Could this child star sustain her momentum into adolescence and beyond? That question would become central to her story, and the answers weren't as glossy as her album covers. The world saw the voice, but they didn't see the cost until Jackie spoke out. As Jackie Evancho's public profile expanded, the pressure behind the scenes grew exponentially. Headlines focused on her flawless vocals and seemingly effortless performances, but very few saw the strain that accompanied such rapid ascent. In the years that followed her early fame, Jackie began to open up, not in song, but in interviews, revealing the unseen weight of her childhood success. In a candid discussion with People magazine and later NBC News, Jackie shared that the intense scrutiny, constant touring, and early exposure to fame began to erode parts of her personal life. She struggled with self-image issues, leading to challenges with disordered eating and a health scare involving osteoporosis, a condition that doctors linked to her earlier habits. The news stunned fans and added a somber layer to the fairy tale image many had of the prodigy. Moreover, the Evancho family faced significant public attention, particularly when Jackie's sister, Juliet, came out as transgender. Jackie used her platform to support her sister, sparking praise from advocacy groups, but also drawing backlash from segments of the public. it became clear that Jackie's life, once neatly wrapped in ribbons and high notes, was now entangled in complex societal debates and deeply personal struggles. Despite these challenges, she did not step away from the spotlight. Instead, she confronted her reality head-on, using her voice in a new way, not just to sing, but to speak. Jackie became a symbol not only of talent, but of resilience. And while many former child stars vanished quietly from the industry, Jackie was preparing for a transformation, one that would redefine how the public saw her next act. She was once known as the child who sang opera, but today, Jackie Evancho is rewriting her identity in her own words. Years after rising to fame with her classical crossover style, Jackie Evancho made a bold and risky pivot. She began shedding the child prodigy image that once defined her and started crafting her own sound. No longer just interpreting arias or performing covers, Jackie began writing and producing her own music, taking full control of her creative direction. This wasn't just a stylistic shift, it was a personal reinvention. In 2024, she released a deeply personal EP titled Sola, an ambitious departure from her traditional operatic work. Featuring original tracks and co-production credits, the project showcased a new Jackie, not just the performer, but the creator. Songs like Behind My Eyes and Walk Through Fire weren't about impressing with vocal range alone. They were emotional, introspective, and raw. They addressed struggles with identity, mental health, and fame, giving listeners an unfiltered glimpse into the woman behind the voice. In interviews, Jackie stated plainly, "I want people to know who I am now, not who I was at 10. This declaration marked a pivotal moment in her career. She no longer relied on nostalgia or the novelty of youth. She wanted her artistry to stand on its own. The risk was clear. Audiences who once adored the child might not follow the adult version, but that didn't stop her. Critics took notice. Outlets like Pittsburgh City Paper praised the EP for its authenticity and sonic maturity, calling it Jackie's most personal and fearless work to date. Fans who had grown up with her found renewed connection, while new listeners discovered her for the first time not as a child star, but as an independent voice navigating adulthood. This chapter of Jackie's career isn't about reinvention for shock value. It's about reclaiming agency. And just when people thought they knew the full story, she dropped a single that would ignite even more conversation. One performance triggered applause and outrage. Jackie Evancho found herself at the center of a national debate. In January 2017, Jackie Evancho, then just 16, accepted an invitation to perform the national anthem at the inauguration of President Donald Trump. What seemed like a patriotic opportunity quickly morphed into one of the most polarizing moments of her young career. Supporters hailed her grace under pressure, while critics flooded social media with backlash, accusing her of endorsing a controversial administration. The young singer, caught in a political crossfire, maintained that her decision was about honoring her country, not about politics. This single event thrust Jackie into a cultural conversation far beyond music. She later clarified that her goal was unity, not division. Still, the performance left a lasting impression on her public image, one that she would spend years reshaping. Fast forward to 2025, and Jackie was making headlines again, this time for her original single, Worthy. The track, part of her evolving discography, served as both a declaration of self-worth and a reclaiming of her artistic space. Unlike earlier works shaped by producers and adult handlers, Worthy was deeply personal, echoing her experiences with public judgment, health struggles, and inner growth. The song quickly found traction on streaming platforms and reignited interest in her story. She also returned to touring, delivering live performances that surprised longtime followers. The little girl with an operatic voice had become a commanding stage presence, weaving vulnerability and strength into every set. Audiences noted her confidence, her storytelling, and her ability to control not just notes, but emotions. While many child stars fade into obscurity, Jackie managed to navigate setbacks and stand again, not as a prodigy, but as an artist forged by experience. The stage that once symbolized innocence now represented something bolder: survival, defiance, and evolution. But there's one final note to this story that deserves attention. a reflection on what all of this means for her legacy. She stunned the world at 10, but the most surprising part, Jackie Evancho may just be getting started. As the curtain rises on a new phase of Jackie Evancho's career, one thing has become clear. This is not a comeback, it's a continuation. Jackie's journey is not defined solely by what she did as a child, but by how she has grown, adapted, and persevered. While her early years will always be a point of fascination, they now serve as a foundation rather than a cage. Today, Jackie represents more than a viral moment. She's a case study in endurance, an artist who didn't let early fame define her entire identity. She weathered industry expectations, public scrutiny, and personal battles that many never see. And in doing so, she carved a path not just for herself, but for a generation of young performers seeking to break free from the molds they're placed in. In her most recent interviews, Jackie speaks with the clarity of someone who's lived many lives in just 2 decades. She acknowledges the highs and the lows, but never with bitterness. Instead, there's an undercurrent of wisdom, a maturity earned, not gifted. "I'm still here," she says, "and I still have something to say." Looking ahead, Jackie plans to expand her sound further, possibly into alt-pop, folk, or even cinematic scoring. Her songwriting continues to evolve, and she's reportedly collaborating with a new generation of producers. Far from seeking the spotlight for nostalgia's sake, she's chasing it on her own terms, ready to surprise the world once again. As we close this report, the final verdict is simple. Jackie Evancho is not a footnote in music history, she's a headline still being written. And for those who stopped paying attention after America's Got Talent, it might be time to tune back in.